I've seen some videos recently on YouTube about buying used bikes, that kind of thing. And I don't know, I think it depends on the person, really. I mean, the bike I'm riding right now is pretty much 20 years old, and my 2010 R1 gave me more issues than this guy. I've had to do a little bit of work on it, but that's because it needed a new battery and the liquids changed, which I did myself. The carbs were tuned, the fork seals had been done, calipers had been rebuilt. There was quite a bit of work done on it too. I paid like $3,400 for the bike, and it had 17,800 miles on it. And it is a 998cc. It's a liter bike naked. First generation. But there ain't no need to buy a clapped out bike, so they say, you know, like a messed up motorbike. You can look at it. You can turn it on, check it out. You know, most people say you can test ride it, cash in hand, blah, blah, blah. So, not every bike's gonna be a piece of junk, man. Honestly, a lot of the bikes that I've seen, yeah, some of them just didn't catch my fancy per se. Like, I didn't like the style. I didn't like the way they look personally per se. So, individual taste plays a huge part in that. Anyhow, I don't think that buying a used bike is a bad road to go, honestly. Even if you've been riding for a long time. There are a lot of people that buy bikes brand new, man. And I've seen this. They buy the bike brand new, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and it sits in the garage. And they might have put 4,000, 5,000, even 10,000 miles, maybe 20,000 in that amount of time. And the bike is still in phenomenal condition. I mean, the motor, and most of its parts are still great. So I don't know why buying a new bike would supersede buying a used bike, unless it's something that you really like to specialize, like the R1M, the Ducati Aprilia, you know, those kind of bikes. Maybe a Kajiva. Anyway, I mean, unless you want to get into those kinds of bikes and then try to find a mechanic who's going to work on them, then that's up to you, really. But a lot of it has to do with research, researching the bike. When you see it, you like it. Research the horsepower, research what it's done, problems people might have had with them, things like that. And as long as you do your research and then go check out the bike, test it out, you know, turn it on, find out what might be wrong with it, then you can go from there, you know. But honestly, for me, I don't care to buy a brand new bike. I don't like all the shit on them, personally. And sure, some people think, oh yeah, ABS and traction control and all this bullshit. To me, I just look at it and go, you know, as long as it's got good front brakes, good rear brakes, and it's pretty raw, I like it. This bike is very raw. It doesn't have any of that. It has a cluster with a clock. It shows the RPMs, shows the miles per hour. I mean, very basic. It doesn't have to do anything fancy to me. You know, for the most part, I'm the auto blipper. I do the braking. If it's too hard, my rear tire will slide. If it's too hard on the front, same thing. I mean, ultimately, I think the bikes with less amounts of bullshit to deal with and create that false narrative that, hey, I'm a great rider because the bike's doing it for me, you know? I mean, the shifting, like quick shifters, shit like that, man. I mean, I don't need that stuff. If I'm gonna race, I'm gonna do it. And I get it. It probably makes it a little bit easier for people who aren't quite like up to par on their shifting and throttle responses, things like that. So they got to put it down in lower gear so that the bike doesn't give them full horsepower. Man, I love full horsepower. I want that raw power at my hand. I don't want it on a control. Now, if you're a beginner and you go on a 1000cc 998, well, that's on you, man. I think there's been plenty of videos out there that warn about getting on a big bike. Anyway, I used to buy brand new trucks every year to drive, that kind of deal, and man, I was making house payments on those things. And it was a waste of money, honestly. Total waste. So I went back, I stopped doing that. I said, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm not doing stuff like that anymore. And I did that the same with the bike. When I started off, I bought a 2014 650 V-Star, and that bike was clean, man. Absolutely a nice bike, cruiser. 40 horsepower. Great beginner bike. It weighed a little bit, but nothing I couldn't handle, you know. So it really depends on how strong you are, that kind of thing, on the weight of the bike, and if you know how to pick it up properly. But ultimately, I think that bike weighed like 500, mid-500s, with full tank and everything. But like this bike's under 500, and great bike though, used. Guy bought it for his wife. I think she drove it maybe, I'm not kidding, 5,000 miles. And I ended up putting like 20,000 miles on that bike. So that being said, to me, some of these used bikes are pretty amazing, man. Maybe the person didn't really like do a lot of oil changes, but then you think about it, and if you drive it so minimal, I mean, why would you change the oil? You might want to change it when you buy it, but in reality, unless the oil goes bad or dries up, it shouldn't be an issue. In any case, you know, if you got the money to go buy a brand new bike, do you, man, go for it. But I've had good luck buying used bikes. I've driven brand new ones too, and they're nice to ride, and you got to get that break-in period. You got to break them in, and then the first service and all that shit. Well, for me, they're already broke in, and they've already done the first service and all that good shit. So that kind of makes it really nice, because I don't have to spend all that much money on that. Well, the other thing I forgot about this bike is the rear tire had a patch in it, and I ran it till it started leaking very slowly. But in all reality, in my opinion, there's some really good deals out there with these used bikes. Now granted, I've seen some R6s and stuff on there that people are asking way too much, and maybe it's because we don't make them anymore. You know, that kind of thing. But to me, hell, they don't make this bike anymore either. So should I ask $20,000 with 34,000 miles on it? Not even close. And I take good care of this bike. It's got new sprockets, chains, wheels, tires are consistently. I'll probably go through at least 1 or 2 sets of tire a year. 2 tires a year probably for each front and back. But ultimately, used bikes, man, in my opinion, you can't beat it, dude. You can't beat that with a stick, even if you were a caveman. But I mean, again, if you want to buy a brand new one, you want traction control and you want all the nice things that come with it, go for it. I mean, if you're a skilled rider and you already know what you're doing, I guess that stuff ain't gonna matter much, is it? Anyhow, ultimately, it's really on the taste of the bike rider and what he likes to see or she likes to see in a bike. You know, you like the look of the aggressive sport bike. You like the naked look. And what I mean by naked is like, you can get the hyper naked, the naked. I personally like this bike the way it's got the screen. It may not be a big screen, but I could always buy one for it. And I always buy a screen for it, but I like the look of it. The tubular frame, the color, the liquid silver. I like that look. I mean, I love the way this bike looks. And it's not brand new, man. It's 20 years old. But this thing is an animal, dude. It's fast, agile. I mean, the bike does what I need it to do. I have my R1, and again, that bike was a great bike too. But if I put this bike to the R1, this bike right here, it's just as capable, if not better, ergonomically. With the abilities that it has to turn and do all that. And again, this was used, the R1 was used too, 2010. That bike, I had to dump some money into that one. But anytime you buy a bike like that, you can kind of expect to spend at least, I'm going to say at least another $1,500 to $2,000 at the most. I don't think I spent more than $2,000. Maybe 13, close to 2,000. But in reality, used bikes, man, I don't know how you can go wrong unless you really pick a lemon and you don't know how to pick anything. At that point, suggest taking somebody that knows cars and vehicles, motorcycles with you. Somebody that actually knows what they're looking for, listening for, that kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, watching these videos, you know, talk about clapped out little bikes and things like that. I mean, if you're buying stupid clapped out bikes like that, then obviously it shows your inexperience with any type of vehicle, because you'd probably buy a clapped out little car too. Anyway, just be patient. That's the biggest thing. Be patient. Wait for something that comes up that really gets your eye. And then when it does, and then you look at the price, man, make offers. I've made offers to motorcycle guys that are like, no, they really in their head believe their bike is worth what they're asking. And that thing stays on marketplace for a long time. And I don't care, you know, personally. I'm like, I don't need it that bad. But there's always somebody out there that knows, hey, I'm not going to run this bike. And then they wheel and deal with you. I wheeled and dealed with this guy. So the guy wanted 3,800 right out. I went down to like 3,200 in the middle. We kind of 34. I said, okay, 34. And then that's when I learned about the plug and all the different things that, oh yeah, so for a new tire, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, it's just a matter of being patient, waiting for the bike that you want and that strikes your eye, man. And then when you look and when you research it and find out the horsepower, the torque, all the specs on the bike, anything that might have been wrong with it, if they had recalls or anything like that, you can go from there. But yeah, I don't care about the BMW S1000RR or any of those brand new bikes like that with all the little mods and hey, I can add more horsepower by doing this and that. The only reason I would even care to do that is if I was actually racing. I mean, this right here has more than enough horsepower to race around out on the street. And then some. So for me, that's enough. Maybe 200 plus horsepower is the thing for you. And that's cool. You might find it used. Anyhow, yeah, when I seen those videos, I was kind of like, huh, why don't you want to buy a used bike? There's a lot of used bikes that got low miles on them, very cheap. But do your research, that's what I would say. And on the street, you want to be vigilant, practice the skills you learn in your MSF course, advanced course, intermediate course, track course, and practice and practice.